Hey, and welcome to the introduction to HTML. We're going to be leaving the design stuff behind. And now that you've done your challenge and the design stuff, we're going to be jumping into coding. So we're going to start with HTML. And because I'm assuming you know nothing about that, we'll start from the very top. Also, please note the course files are available for download in the resources section of this video. Yeah, that was weird, Brad. Okay. All right, HTML, what is it all about? HTML stands for HyperText Markup Language. It's a language used to create documents on the web. HTML is meant specifically for creating structure and meaning on web page content or within web page content. HTML contains tags that organize and structure text, include images, create forms and tables, and link to other documents and web pages all over the internet. The basic syntax of HTML is made up of tags, attributes, and elements. HTML tags are tag names surrounded by angle brackets on either side, like so. We have the HTML tag. HTML tags usually come in pairs, like this. We have the opening and closing body tags. And note that the closing body tag has a / right after the first angle bracket. The first tag is called the opening tag. The second the closing tag. So in this example, we have the opening article tag, the closing article tag, and the content sits between the two. Attributes provide extra information about an element and are always specified in the opening tag like so. We have our article tag, and there's an attribute with a value. And we'll get further into what attributes and values are later, so don't let it confuse you too much right now. It's actually quite simple. Attribute values should be enclosed within quotation marks like you just saw. You may come across something like this on the web. So we have an article tag, could be any tag really, and an attribute with the value right after, but it's not surrounded in quotation marks. You can do that. Sometimes it's valid, but some browsers don't interpret this properly, so it's usually best practice to add the quotation marks and be consistent. Elements. An element is a tag and the content it wraps around. For example, it's everything put together, the opening tag, closing tag, and the content within it. That is called the element. Here's a visual recap. We have tags, attributes, and elements. Tags are kind of like the body tag, paragraph tag, so on and so forth. There are a lot of HTML tags, and we'll get there when we get there. Attributes are extra information injected into HTML tags that tell the browser a little bit more about your web page, the document, or the specific tag. And elements is everything put together. So the opening, closing tag, and the content within it. HTML tags are like nested containers. So think of it like Tupperware or those stackable Russian dolls that fit within one another. The relationship between the HTML elements are called parent and child relationships, where the containing element is referred to as the parent of the element within it. So, for example, think of it like a family tree, because that's exactly what it's like. We have the body tag, and within the body tag, we can have things like headings and paragraphs, and within certain HTML tags, you can have other tags nested within it. So here, in this example, the body is the parent of the heading tags and the paragraph tags. And the second paragraph tag is the parent of the M and strong tags or elements. The body is the ancestor of the M and strong tags rather than their direct parent. And the headings and paragraphs are siblings. The M and strong tags are also siblings, the ones that are within that nested paragraph tag. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, just check out this slide again and kind of get yourself a little bit more familiar. You can rewind, restart, do all that sort of stuff, but don't worry about it because we're going to be diving more into this as we go along. The basic structure of a website. So first we're going to start with the file and folder structure. It's important to keep the contents of your website organized. Folders should have simple one-word names. Multi-word names can be faked by using the underscore character, like so. Product underscore images, course underscore files, rather than saying product space images like you would just writing in English. In the root folder of your site, root is the common name for the top-level directory of a website. You'll place an HTML document called HTML. Index.html is the home page, the first page visitors see when they arrive at your website. The index.html file name is set in stone because Unix-based HTTP servers are configured to look for a document named index.htm or HTML when no additional file name is specified in the address bar. So for example, if you're searching for website.com, the server will automatically look for website.com/index.html, the home page. You will also have a folder reserved for your images. This folder is usually called images or IMG. So let's take a look at the typical file folder structure of a simple website. So here we have a big folder. We're going to call it My Website. Within that folder, we have our index.html file, our homepage. And we also have a folder within that folder called images, where we're going to hold all of our images, like the logo.jpg file. Then we also have another folder called downloads, or it could be something else, but in this case, it's going to be called downloads, where we can store some more HTML files like things.html. And then we have another folder called biographies, where we can store a biography HTML page like brad.html. So let's assume this directory lives at the web address www.website.com. Navigating to things.html within the downloads folder would look like this in the address bar: website.com/downloads/things.html. Navigating to logo.jpg within the images folder would look like this: website.com/images/logo.jpg. The name of any file or folder you create as a part of your website structure will eventually become part of a URL. URLs have some restrictions as far as the characters that can be used within them. So it's important to be aware of them. So these characters are not allowed in URLs. Things like tabs, spaces, brackets, curly braces, backslashes, things like that. Some special characters are allowed in URLs, like the @ equals, ampersand, %, pound, /, question mark, colon, and semicolon. Spaces are certainly not allowed in URLs. You can fake spaces by using the underscore, like so: my_website, cute_dog, awesome_things. URLs are mostly case sensitive, which means if you have an image called logo.jpg, all lowercase, and you reference it in your address bar or HTML as logo with a capital L, the server probably won't find it. The best approach is it's widely accepted among most professional web developers to only use lowercase alphanumeric characters and the underscore when naming files and folders. So instead of this, my best website with capital in front of each first letter is a capital and spaces, like normal English, you want to use something like this instead: my best website, all lowercase, no spaces, or my_best_website, no capitals and underscores in replacement of the spaces. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that was clear as mud, because we're moving on. One of the most essential tools you're going to need as a web developer is a code editor, a good one. A code editor is essentially just a text editor, but with some more bells and whistles that are geared towards helping you develop websites and applications and software. So you can just use a straight up text editor like Notepad or something like that, but it's not recommended because it's just going to hold you back, slow you down, and it's not really built for coding and programming. So it's not really recommended. Thankfully, there are a lot of options out there, both free and paid. And a lot of the time, the free and paid versions rival each other, so it's nice. I'm a pretty strong supporter of starting off just hand coding everything with a very basic text editor like Text Wrangler by Barebones. It's free and it's very capable, and it's basically just a simple code editor that looks like this, where you can program here. You can have your files over in the right sidebar here and save your documents as HTML, CSS, JS, PHP, so on and so forth. So it's good. This is how I started. The upside about this is that you will learn muscle memory in your fingers and learn to code right from scratch, kind of the hard way. But I recommend that because with a lot of these other fancy code editors, they help you with code folding and autocomplete and suggestions and so on and so forth. And you often don't really learn how the code works because the software is kind of doing it for you a little bit. So it's nice to start off from scratch. So I would recommend, if you've never programmed before, to start off with Text Wrangler. And it's available for Mac and maybe PC. I'm not really sure about that. I'm pretty sure it's just a Mac software. But you can also, if you're a PC user, you can use Notepad++. This is a code editor for the PC, for PC users, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. It's free and open source, so it's a good editor, and it has a few features to help you with programming, but it's still very basic and can help you learn to code from scratch. You can move up a little bit and go to something like Sublime Text. There's a lot of really good reviews on this one. It's for PC and Mac, I am pretty sure, and it's essentially free, but after your free trial, you'll get notifications after every handful of saves to upgrade to the paid version, which I've heard is pretty annoying. But if you're using it and you're using this to start a business and you're going to make money off of programming and coding and making websites, it's fine to pay your one-time fee for a programming software, a code editor. So I heard lots of good things about Sublime Text. They have obviously lots of features to help you speed up your coding, and it's quite nice. If you want to do something a little bit more advanced, you could look at something like Coda 2. As you probably know, if you're a regular student of mine, this is kind of my favorite editor of choice. It does cost money. It's something like $90 or $100, unless they change the price on me here. $99. Sometimes they have promos for $79 and so on and so forth. But it's a really good editor. It looks like so. And it's very full-featured. It's got lots of help when you're programming. It helps you speed up your programming a lot. You could do lots of things like connect to terminals. You can use it as an FTP client. You could do split screen if you wanted to code on one side of the screen. Here, I'll show you here. You can open up a couple documents in one screen. So you could do some HTML here, some HTML here, or CSS here, so on and so forth. It's a really great editor. I sing its praises all the time. So you could check that out at panic.com/coda. Now, the other one, this is a fairly new one to the market, and it's kind of, it's tempting me a little bit to switch, at least temporarily, just to try it out. It's called Brackets by Adobe, and it is a free editor it's open source, and it's for programming, and it basically gives you all the features that Sublime Text and Coda and Espresso and all these sorts of things give you, and it looks quite beautiful, and it's very full-featured, and since it's open source, you could download plugins to help you speed up your programming. You could do different themes to make the editor look, your own, and you can, you can just go through their available plugins to help you code faster. So that's also worth trying out. I've heard lots of really good things about it, and my students have been suggesting that I try it out in my upcoming lectures just to see if it's worth trying. And the great thing is that it's free. So I'm actually going to give it a try throughout this course, and we'll see. So yeah, basically you're going to need yourself a code editor. That's essential. The number one tool you're going to need. It's kind of like you need a computer, and then you need a code editor and an internet connection. Those are the three kind of things you must have if you're looking to become a web developer, web designer. So yeah, just a little quick review. You could do something free like Text Wrangler or Notepad++ for PC. Sublime Text kind of gives you a free and paid option. It's a really great full-featured editor. Coda 2 is my favorite one that I've been using for years now, and it's amazing. And Brackets is kind of a runner-up here in the market that I think is going to do quite well. So check them out, get yourself an editor, download that, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Hello world, what we're going to do now is create our very first web page. If you got my reference, the Hello World reference, that is a pretty common thing for web developers and software developers to do. It's their kind of the first program you create, whether you're doing it in C++ or HTML, JavaScript, anything like that. It's kind of just a test to see if your work is being rendered properly in the, well, in our case, browser. So we want to create our very first web page, and it's actually quite easy. And it's kind of the first step to get you in the door. So the first thing that we need to do is open up our code editor. So in the last lecture, we talked about code editors, and I gave you a few options, and half of them were actually free. And I'm going to be using Adobe Brackets, which is free, and I'm excited to try it out because I've never actually used it before. As you know, I'm a pretty strong supporter of Coda 2, but I am going to shake it up a bit and try some Adobe Brackets. So if you're using Adobe Brackets, then it'd be easy for you to follow along. Coda 2 is fairly similar. If you're using something like Notepad++ or Text Wrangler or even Sublime Text, then the process will be slightly different in terms of opening and creating files, but coding and everything like that will be exactly the same, totally identical. So you shouldn't have a problem there. So I have Adobe Brackets open. The first thing that I wanted to do was create a folder on my desktop. So up here in the top left, HTML_intro is a folder that I actually created on the desktop. So to make it easier, I'm just going to go to my desktop here, and I'm just going to delete that folder and create a new folder. Let's call it HTML_intro. So that's on the desktop. If I go back to my Adobe Brackets, then I'll be able to, I'm going to click here and say open folder, and that will give me an option to find a folder. And I'm already in HTML intro, but here it is right here. Open, there we go. So this is the folder contents. It's empty currently. If you're using Coda, it'd be very similar. You'll just go file open or open folder, and you could find your folder. The same goes for Text Wrangler, except for you can't open folders in Text Wrangler, you just open files. Well, don't worry about opening the folder in Text Wrangler. Really all you need to worry about if you're in Text Wrangler is creating the file within this folder, which is kind of the benefit of using Brackets and Coda. You can use it as a finder right here and actually create files. So that's what we're going to do. Right click, new file, create our new file. You should know it as index.html. And you can do the same by going File New, and you could save a file. And Text Wrangler should be the same. File New, create index.html. Here we are in our index.html. The first thing that we want to do is create the basic structure of the HTML page. Now, because we're going to jump into some HTML in the next section, we're just going to straight up just write text. We're not even going to do any structure at all. So all you really want to do right here is just type in hello world, ! Save that. Now you have text in your index.html file. So what you can do now is go to your desktop, open up that folder, and then you can go ahead and double click that index file. And that should open up your hello world web page. So there it is, your very first web page. It's kind of underwhelming, but that's okay because we're going to be getting into some really cool stuff as we go through the next lectures. So that is all for our first web page. It's very simple. And in the next section, we're going to actually jump into some real HTML and dive into how to structure a web page and get coding. See you there. Hey there. Good job with that HTML beginner stuff, but I'm not done with you yet. There's more. There's more HTML coming up. We're going to be looking at some intermediate level, it says here. Intermediate level HTML, that's how I know what's up next. I don't I don't know unless I have my book, my grid book. See? Grid books. bradhussey.ca/gridbooks. That wasn't a plug.